don't see any more brags. So with that, we'll have Janet introduce our presenter for today.
All right. So our speaker today is Keith Horman. He's the Light and Power Director for the City of Forest Grove. Keith grew up in South Dakota and after college began his electrical career in 1981. He worked at the local rural electric co-op for 3 years as an apprentice electrician lineman. He decided that spending the rest of his career working outside in the South Dakota winters was probably not a good long-term plan. So he applied for and received a job offered as an apprentice lineman with Pacific Gas and Electric in Southern California. After 10 years, he and his wife were ready to move their family out of California, and he was offered a position as a journeyman lineman with the City of Forest Grove in 1994. During his tenure at the city, he has been fortunate to advance to line crew foreman, then operations superintendent, and now department director. If all goes as hoped, he plans to spend the rest of his career here with the city, guiding the electric utility in the constantly evolving electrical industry. Keith, thanks for coming and sharing with us today.
Oh, absolutely. And hello to everybody. And thank you, Janet. Thank you, Bryce. Appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to you guys about what we're doing here. My presentation today, I'd originally started with Josh talking about this. He was hoping I could do something on some of our bigger or smaller infrastructure projects. So we're doing a lot of different things. We kind of separate our work out into a few different buckets, no pun intended there. But a few different areas that we work in. We do our in-house large infrastructure projects, our capital asset management projects. And then we kind of separate out the larger customer projects, such as subdivisions, apartment complexes, and such. And then we kind of do a mix of smaller, both. And then on the other side of the house, we also do a lot of our maintenance projects that are just ongoing all the time. So if there's no questions before I start, I'll go ahead and do a screen share. And I probably won't be able to see you too well. So if you have a question during the presentation, just yell at me to take a second or wait till the end, either way. Okay, well, I kind of wanted to start out in our big stuff that we've got going on. The city, I'll just sort of read through this. City of Forest Groves, we're powered by 3 electrical substations. They kind of are sight unseen. A lot of times you don't even notice them. And in these substations, there's 4 big, powerful transformers, and this is what feeds the whole city. So even like during our the little heat wave we had a few weeks ago, these guys were just pumping away and keeping up with all the demand, even though we were seeing almost triple our normal loading during that period. They kept up with it just fine. So we separate our substations out geographically. Our Thatcher sub was over on the west side, Filbert's down on the south side of the city. And then our biggest one, our Forest Grove, it kind of takes the central and northern customers, but we can actually intertie between all of our substations and take one completely offline and just keep nobody even knows what's going on. So back in 2013, we went out for a master plan, and it was identified that we needed to start addressing our substations, which is the heart of our system. Without them, nothing would run. So we began that process, and 3 of our 4 transformers had to be were identified for replacement due to age and condition. And we started here at our Thatcher sub. And what you're looking at is just a snapshot of the substation after we were done. This is the new transformer, breakers and stuff here. It was a fairly simple project. We replaced most everything in place. It went well. As part of it, we upgraded all of our controls. We had old analog controls. We went into everything into Schweitzer solid state relays. So if something happens, just for an example, out on the lines, say whatever, a car hits a pole, in about 1/20th of 1 second, so about 6 cycles, it'll actually turn the power off to that circuit because it sees what's going on. So less than a second, it's already reacting to whatever's going on out in the field. And then we instantly start getting alarms and notifications that something's going on. After we finished over at Thatcher, we picked the easy one first. And then at Forest Grove, what we had here is a much more complex project. Back in the days in the 50s when this was built, these two large transformers are close to each other. In today's world, we don't ever do that, because if one explodes or catches on fire, you know, you're likely to lose your second one. And plus we had this whole massive amount of steel here, all carrying 12,000 volts, and we have a lot of wildlife issues over there. So our two goals was to get everything replaced, get everything separated, made it cleaner and more reliable. So we started, we started just demoing everything, got rid of our old transformers. We brought in our new ones. It kind of just gives you an idea how huge these things are. And then when we finished the project, we kind of achieved what we wanted. We got the transformers are all separated. We got the spread out of here, and we've had very, very few problems since then. So it worked out as we had hoped. So that project was completed around 2018. So then we turned our attention to this last substation over at Filbert. Not as upgrades for this section, because it isn't quite due yet. It will be here soon, probably in the next 10 years or about 6-7 years. But as part of an expansion for a different project. So if any of you live on the west side of town, you're probably familiar with some momentary blinks that we see on our power over there. And what it mostly all is the substation that feeds you guys over on the west side taps off from there and keeps going over to Tillamook. So anytime BPA has any situation out on the line between Forest Grove and Tillamook, our customers, about 4,000 of you, all see that outage as it cycles through its operations. So what we did is we said it's happened about 40 times since 2014. So we said we can't live with this. You're the most unreliable part of our system. So we begin a process with them. It's a 2-3 year study, and they finally got back with us in 2019. They were going to allow us to build a tie line between our substations and move that load onto a different circuit that's more reliable. So in the spring of 19, we got that okay. We approached City Council and we immediately got approved, and design began immediately. This new line, it'll allow that Thatcher sub incoming power to become on a more reliable, the one that feeds from Forest Grove to McMinnville, where we have very few problems. And it also more resiliency because it gives us a connecting ring around the city. So we're now in a parallel loop that we can go back and forth with whenever needed in case there's problems. So it's kind of killing two birds per the saying. So what we have here, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but what we have, this is our big, strong Forest Grove substation. We have our incoming lines coming off of the main switching hub there off of Highway 26 and Cornelius Pass. And from here, it feeds out to the Tillamook line where we're having all the troubles, and it taps off this Thatcher substation. And then on the other side of it, it feeds down from Forest Grove to McMinnville, and it hits our Filbert substation. So what our study request was, is we wanted to put a tie line in between these two. And like I said, in 2019, we got that approval from BPA. This lines could handle it. So we begin that right away. So we started out at Filbert sub, and all this stuff that you're seeing here are the dead ends where the lines come in from BPA. So as part of our project, we had to move everything. So we began our process here. As we moved through it for all the foundations. And then we started from there, we were able to start building the substation back up. And then this is our final product. We have our incoming BPA lines. We have our outgoing lines that we now own, and they're feeding that tie line that I was describing. So that portion of the project, it's actually two projects. That project's completed. We just finished that, when was it? Right at the end, right at December, end of December. And we got this substation back online. It's now serving all of our customers back down in that end of town again. So excuse me, there's our final product there. But then at the same time, we started the process of building this transmission line between the two substations. We're doing all this in-house with our own crews to try to save money doing that. So they're working through this process, setting poles, pulling wires, just everything's big and heavy. And we're making good progress. If any of you have been down on E Street, Gills Creek Road, you've probably seen our crews out there messing up traffic every day, but that's where we're at. We've made it from our Filbert substation on the south end of town. We've wound our way through, and now we're on that last little stretch between Tom McCall and our Thatcher sub down to the south, or to the north, excuse me. Once that's in, we're shooting for around October 1st is our plans that will cut the substation over. And then hopefully this eliminates all those outages or problems that we keep seeing out of that substation. So it's been a great project for us, and we're just about near completion, and it's been a big project. At the same time as we're doing all this work, obviously we have to keep up with everything else. So one of the other things that I'd mentioned, big customer projects. This is the Gales Creek subdivision. We've done a couple, well, we're on phase 4 now. If any of you have driven out on David Hill Road, you've probably noticed on the north side, another pretty large subdivision started called Farmstead. Our crews are out there working actually today already. So that's moving ahead. We have, this is an older picture. It looks way different already, but this is the new reserve apartment complex, a couple hundred unit apartment complex there at Poplar and Pacific Highway 47. And as you guys are aware, you know, the new Starbucks is over here and the new Popeyes chickens going in here. So a lot going on in that little corner that's keeping us pretty busy. And then another project that City Council tasked us with was the city has around 2,000 street lights that the Public Works Street Department owns. Our department was tasked with replacing all those lights with LEDs. So we designed it into a 4-year project. We broke it up into different phases geographically around town. And actually, we were able to move ahead a little bit faster than we had scheduled. And we're on the final phase now. We're on year 3, but we're actually in the final phase. We have around 100 lights or so left to do out of the 2,000. We'll wrap those up here pretty quick this summer. And then when we're all done, the city will be saving approximately 50% or more on energy on the usage for what these lights compared to the old ones, how much they use. So it's been a good project. It'll pay for itself in about 4 to 6 years. It'll pay off, and then it's just all savings at that point. Another project that we've been doing, if you may have noticed, a lot of the city already owns 8 EV chargers around town in public parking places. We actually applied for and received a grant through Bonneville Environmental Foundation that we're installing a couple more, 4 more actually in 2 locations. So we're putting a couple more in on areas that were identified, a lot of high usage around the college, as you can see by the addresses there. So this has been a really positive project for us. We're really pushing our EV program. We're in the works with City Council on other options that we can come up with that can be presented to our customers, such as possibly doing rebates for their home chargers, incentives and stuff like that. So it's been real positive, and we're going to have a couple more new ones here pretty quick. Some of our maintenance projects, as I mentioned, these are just ongoing all the time. We achieved, we look at doing 10% of our system a year. We inspect thoroughly. In other words, we go up and down every pole, every vault, every transformer. And then we look for anything for summer conditions on the left to a nasty winter condition on the right. Anything that looks like it's starting to fail, or anything, we'll infrared all the connectors, trying to find anything that could be going wrong before it actually happens. Kind of the same thing with our underground system. We have a lot of older cable from back in the 1970s and 80s that were direct buried. And that was just the way it was done back then. And obviously we don't do it that way anymore. They're failing. So we're constantly doing projects replacing these cables proactively hopefully before they fail. We're not always getting there before, but we're trying to. And then another big maintenance thing that we have that is our tree trimming program. We have an in-house tree crew, and they are trimming year round. So we actually have very few issues related to tree branches or anything blown into the lines, because these guys are very aggressive. What it usually is if a complete tree falls over into the circuits or something like that. But they're out there every day trimming different areas, trying to keep us in the clear. So that's kind of my presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen. There, I think I've got everybody back. So Bryce, I can take any questions anybody has, or any thoughts, anything from anyone?
I see one just got a hand up.
I have a question. Why the gigantic poles?
So this is running at the transmission level where they're 115,000 volts. So they have to be up there, you know, substantially higher. Plus we run circuits underneath them, the mainline circuits that actually feed the neighborhoods too. So yeah, they have to be up there quite a ways.
Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, Keith, can you tell us a little bit about the city's contract with Bonneville and how much longer it has to run and how advantageous it is to us?
Well, I don't know how much time you have, but that's a pretty extensive subject. But yeah, our contract, we're under a 20-year contract with BPA. It actually expires in 2028. So believe it or not, we're already working on that, the next round of contracts. By 2025, we'll be completely signed into our new contracts. We're considered along with the other 140 or so consumer-owned utilities in the 7-state area as preference customers. So we get preference power, cheaper rates. We're guaranteed the power of our needs up to a certain point. So those contracts are continuing now, and they'll keep going. And we're also buy about 10% of our power off the hydro projects out of Grant PUD. And then this is where it gets a little weird. Once you reach a certain point on the tiered rate methodology, we've reached that point, and we're going above that now by about 1.5 megawatts. So we're actually going out on the open market and buying power now too, to meet those needs. But everything else is locked in. The open market is movable, but that's we're running about 31 megawatts per hour per day is where we're at, and they're meeting all of our needs. Is that good enough, Tim? Or
yeah,
I can go way deeper if you'd like.
I think I saw Jim Chris, had his hand up.
Yes, during this hot spell we had, I was nervous about all the power being used and wondering when it was going out, like it was doing in places like Portland. And we didn't have one outage during that time. And I think you should be commended for that.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. We were monitoring everything very, very closely. We actually got a little concerned in one area off of Knox Ridge Terrace Golf Road area. So we actually proactively, we were moving some power around, trying to lighten up some load before people started getting home from work. And unfortunately, we had a small piece of equipment fail. So we did take 59 customers out of power for about 15 minutes while we got that piece of equipment cleared. But yeah, so unfortunately, or fortunately, that was the only outage we have. Unfortunately, it was self-caused. So, but yes, we made it through. Our circuits look good. We're, like I said, carrying almost triple the load of normal. But believe it or not, we're still a winter peaking utility. So we actually carry more load in the winter than we did in the summer. So during that heat wave. So yeah, it's getting closer though with all the air conditioning. But thank you, Jim.
Janet?
So
when you about green power,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
A comment on green power. I know we have that option.
Right. Yeah, we have a what we call a pure power program. It's where our customers can. It's still more expensive, but they can another $4 per 200 kilowatt blocks. They can buy into additional, and that guarantees that we're going out and finding the green power. We do it through our renewable energy credit program. But yes, we offer that to all of our customers. It's a way that you. It's a method that our customers can contribute towards renewable energy, pure power, green power, whatever you want to call it, in a way that they don't have to make a huge investment on their own, like you know, a solar array or something like that, and still be able to contribute towards the bigger picture. So we do offer that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Janet?
So with all of the new building and stuff in town, does that impact where you get your power? Are you a part of that plan? And is that kind of where we buy from the open market because there's not enough in the original 20-year plan?
Yeah, exactly. So under the tiered rate methodology through BPA that was designed back in 2008, went into effect back in that time, every utility is given a share of the federal system, and that's what's considered your high water mark. And so that's what we can buy up to through BPA. And then, like I mentioned, we also have our contract with Grant County. But yes, anything above that, that's when, well, we could still buy it from BPA at a different rate schedule, or we can go to the open market with the possibility of buying it cheaper. Just depends on the market cycle, of course. So we chose to go to the open market, and we are saving some money for our customers. So, but yes, as loads increase, there's no more available from BPA under the preference power. So yeah, we could either buy it at a different rate from them or buy it on the open market.
What's the forecast for the Portland metro region? You know, when I think about it, you have growth not only in personal, but business, Intel operations, things like that, consuming a lot of power, but then also with the proliferation of EVs gaining higher market share over time, that's also going to have an increased draw on the power system. Do you forecast over the next 20 years, will this region have to invest in new power generating capability, or does the existing hydroelectric power and other sources seem to meet the need for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, that's a huge subject, and one that's really being talked about like right now. Let me answer that backwards. No, the hydro system is not capable of meeting all the needs into the future. So you guys may have noticed PGE shut down the Boardman coal plant. We've had coal strips go down, coal plants go down. So that's starting to have a pretty huge impact on our resource adequacy of the whole region-wide, the 7-state area. It is, like I say, becoming an issue. There are renewables, there's modular nuclear reactors that are being looked at very heavily, especially out of Idaho. It's still fine, but what the reports are coming out are chances of running, I don't know how you'd say it, running out of power or rolling blackouts are increasing as we speak, as more goes offline, but then renewables come online, but renewables can only generate during certain times. So it's becoming an issue.
Ken?
Yeah, a quick question. Is hydro considered a renewable power? And if not, why not?
That's a tricky question. Yes and no. Yes, hydro is considered a renewable power by everyone. No, under the renewable portfolio standards that were put in place by the state of Oregon, and the reason is if we counted that as renewable power, there would be no standards to get higher and get stronger. Everybody would be meeting the standards. So under the RPS, it is not considered renewable, but to every other group, it is. California will buy all the hydropower they can receive because it's considered renewable power there. that kind of answers your question a little bit, sort of, I think.
It just tells me it's all politics.
I don't disagree with that.
Keith, how is the decision made whether power is going to be above ground or below ground in an area?
Well, anything new, council is mandated, city council mandated a long time ago that anything new will be going in underground. So it always is, you know, like every subdivision, it's always underground. The overhead stuff that's still there is always looked at as the feasibility of whether it's better. It's quite a bit more expensive to put it underground. I'll give you an example. 26th Avenue is going to be upgraded between Sunset and Hawthorne here in the next year and a half. And we're looking at both possibilities, which way is going to be better for that area. We're looking at some of our lines that run out into the wildlife urban area that's touching the forest. And we're looking at for as part of our wildfire mitigation plan, possibly putting those underground and going away from the overhead just to help avoid any chance of fire ignition. So it's kind of a complex thing on certain decisions. On the other parts is there's no decision. It's mandated. So does that answer that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Howard?
I just want to, and I don't want to steal Juanita's thunder, but in addition to everything that Keith showed us in his slide presentation, Light and Power is a huge supporter of what goes on during holiday time, tourism time, putting lights up, banners up, in addition to doing everything else. And there's Keith at 10 o'clock at night helping put those things out. So he's a big proponent of what makes Forest Grove Forest Grove. So thank you, Keith.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for.
And Juanita, if I stole your thunder, I apologize.
It's a team effort.
That's quite all right, but that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because without them doing that, we would miss a lot in this community. So it is a very important role to play.
Thank you, guys.
One more question. So Keith, do you see like home solar as a viable thing in our area? Something that people should look at for themselves, or I don't know, however that works.
Yeah, of course. Matter of fact, it's fun. I just finished a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to be doing to City Council on August 9th on that exact thing. We currently have 32 customers out of our 10,000 that have residential solar. It can be challenging to do it for a financial reason because our power rates are so low. The payoff period for a average 20 to 25 year solar panel compared to our rates and what they can produce at the Northwest, about 13% under annual performance, it's a little harder to make them pay off. So I think a lot of the customers that actually do it are more, they have other reasons they're doing it besides just saving some money too. We have a full program in place. We offer an incentive for it. We fully support any residential solar in town.
Great. Well, thank you for your presentation, Keith, and your time. Really appreciate it.